Good Thursday afternoon if you're on the East Coast, I guess. It's still morning here in Sacramento. What we're seeing here is a color version of the Hermetic Rose Cross, a discussion we started yesterday. This is a graphic here that was printed up. I don't know how many were printed up way back 20 years ago by when I was working with Christopher Hyatt there at New Falcon or Falcon Press when I started. Anyway, we're going to discuss this more today actually, and we're going to read, at least begin to read, this little pamphlet here called I.N.R.I, De Mysteriis Rosae Rubeae et AUREAEBCRUCIS by one whose number is 777. And that one is Charles Stanfield Jones, better known as Frater Akkad, and Akkad means one. So we're going to we published this. When did we? Well, we didn't publish it. We printed it up for the members of Heru Raha Lodge OTO, I guess, on our 13th anniversary. So that would have made that 1991, I guess. But before we do that, tucked away in this pamphlet here, in my book, Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, I talk about the development of the Hermetic Rose Cross, because Frieda Harris used a stylized or a trimmed down version of the Hermetic Rose Cross on the back of each of the tarot cards of the Thoth Tarot. And so I discuss that in a chapter in the book, and then I took the illustrations that I had in the book and turned it into this little booklet, this little one-sheet booklet. And I took a picture of, all four pages of this little booklet and posted it on my Facebook page today, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. Here's just a black and white version of this. I want you to know that I did this at work when I was working at C.B. Richard Ellis Commercial Real Estate. I did it on PowerPoint, one little step and one little image and one little line at a time, using little dingbats and things like that. But anyway, enough bragging about my primitive skills. Basically, here's the steps. There's a point right in the middle. Okay, right in the middle. The point is black here, right in the middle of the little tiny rose. But that's where this rose cross begins, right there with that little point. And so it starts with the point at number one. That point is described by the Kabbalists as a white cubic stone. And the mystery of them calling it that is because in order to create a cube, you have to start like in the center and go up, down, right, left, and forward and backwards. That creates a cube. The three creates the cube. And then that cube pops open and becomes an unfolded cube, which creates a cross. And nailed to that cross is a rose petal of of 5, as if the cube unfolded is the macrocosmic, I guess, a pre-echo of the macrocosm, and the rows of 5 is a pre-echo of the microcosmic world of 5. Man crucified to the macrocosm, to God. Then those 4 green barbs that sort of position it in space. And then, as an echo of that first dimensional 3-ness, 3 rose petals grow around the little rose cross there. And I call the little rose cross the rose cross of being. Okay? And that rose cross of being is right there in the middle. And echoing that 3-ness is the 3-petaled rose. Primitive elements of air, fire, and water. Then echoing the center and the 6 sides are the 7 planetary spheres, a rose petal of 7. And around that, the 7 or the 12 edges of the cubes are echoed in the signs of the zodiac and the 12 signs of the zodiac. Okay, hope you're following along. Then that rose is crucified to a large version of the unfolded cube. And when we're thinking in terms of tarot suits, here we come with lesser arcana, the four suits of the tarot. Okay, that's where we get the color. Okay, notice we've got that white space blank at the moment. 4 suits of the tarot cards. Okay, then on those things are pentagrams. And the pentagrams are surrounded by elemental symbols. Fire, water, air, and earth for knight, queen, prince, and princess. And the ace at the top there. And those are placed on the extremities of the cross. Okay, we're almost through. Wake up, we're almost through. Then the macrocosmic hexagram is placed in that white area right there. Okay, then now we've got very elaborate threefold barbs in each of the edges, spelling out I.N.R.I, Yod Nun Resh Yod. We've got the astrological signs of Virgo, Isis, Mighty Mother, Scorpio, Apophis, Destroyer, Sol, Osiris, Slain and Risen, and in the littler barbs we got E-O. Okay. Now, then on the other little barbs we got a little T, which is the sign of Osiris slain. We got an L, the sign of Isis in mourning. We got a V, the sign of Apophis and Typhon, and we've got an X, the sign of Osiris risen. LVX, Lux, the light of the cross. Or in this place I put sign of the cross, but the light of the cross. Then in the little trifold petals at the end of each of the extremities, we've got the alchemical symbols of salt, sulfur, and mercury. Okay. That being said, this is what it looks like now.
Thank you. Nothing. Good morning and thank you.
Okay, we've got, I think we've got the gardener out there. Is that what's happening out there, dear?
Yes, dear.
Darling? darling, is that? Are you talking to the gardener, darling?
I'm sorry that life intrudes on your fantasy. My practical life intrudes on your fantasy life.
Oh, well, we've got a little
They just mow and blow the front yard and stay out of the back, so I want to be nice to them.
Yeah. Well, they won't be doing it for long. I hope you can still hear me.
They only last about 3 minutes.
It only lasts about 3 minutes. Here we've got I.N.R.I. This is written by Frater Akkad. Now, those of you familiar with Aleister Crowley and Frater Akkad know that Frater Akkad early on was one of the superstars, one of the teacher's pet, if you will, of Aleister Crowley. He sort of took the AA program in a personal way. He took the AA ball and he ran with it. Okay. Wonderful poetic guy, wrote really cool stuff. Found the key to, or a major key to the Book of the Law, the 31, with his Liber 31, and truly Crowley considered him not only his most promising student, but at a certain 9 months after Crowley performed a magical operation to incarnate, or a magical operation for Crowley to become a magus, number 2 on the Tree of Life. 9 months after that, Frater Akkad wrote him a letter concerning a certain personal illumination he had, whereby both of them were more or less convinced that Frater Akkad had achieved the grade of Master of the Temple, had crossed the abyss, and in a sense was Crowley's magical child, or the one to follow in the Book of the Law. Now, I'm not of any kind of level to pass any sort of a judgment on it, but I could see why both Crowley and Akkad would look at those circumstances and say, hey, I think that's probably what happened. But eventually, while writing a book on Kabbalah, a very basic introduction to Kabbalah, called QBL, it's still published. Frater Akkad wrote a very excellent introduction to the Kabbalah, but right in the middle of it, he had an inner revelation about how the paths should be majorly turned. He literally turned the Tree of Life upside down in his speculation. And, we're all free to speculate any way we want, okay? But it was such a major shift and a disturbing, Crowley saw it as indicative of a disturbing aberration taking place with Frater Akkad that disturbed Crowley enough to say, uh-oh, I think he's just gone nuts. But with magicians, you never know when you're dealing with someone who's either across the abyss or they've gone nuts. Be that as it may, they had a falling out, and Crowley sort of withdrew his recognition of Akkad, but Akkad continued to contribute great and wonderful writings. He was a Canadian. He was also the sort of like the Canadian head of the OTO, He was a 9th degree member of the OTO and officially, I believe, a 10th degree in or Supreme and Holy King of Canada. So the guy has impressive credentials. And he wrote this. And it's a beautiful little thing. He wrote it sort of like a Crowley document, complete with marginal notes like we find in the Wake world and things like that. And it's sort of written from the point of view of sort of a classic Golden Dawn, Adeptus Minor, 5 = 6. At the end of the initiation ceremony, the new 5 = 6 is given this lamen. That's a 5 = 6 lamen of that degree. And so here's how it's titled: I.N.R.I. de Mysteriis Rosae Rubeae et AUREAEBCRUCIS by 1, all caps 1, whose number is 777. Wherein, under the form of an admonition to an Adeptus Minor of the R.R. et A.C., is disclosed the true symbolism of the Rosy Cross for the enlightenment of those who are worthy of the same. And there's Frederick Codd's beautiful personal lamen, which he also the VIO all-in-one, unus in omnibus. And then there's his one of his OTO titles, Par Cival, Par Civ All. And then there's a cod. And 13 is a cod, and 1. Mark well, O my son, and give heed unto this my counsel and advice. O thou who hast for the first time this day beheld the mysteries of the red rose, whereon sparkleth the dew, and of the golden cross, from which cometh the light of the world. Is not this the symbol to be found on the breast of all true brethren of the Rosy Cross? Hold fast to this jewel and treasure it as thy life itself, for many and great are its virtues, and of these I will now discourse unto you in part. Know then, O my son, that there be many crosses, and that the symbolism of these varieth according to the art of the wise, which giveth them due proportion. So too are to be found roses, whose petals signify a 5-fold, and a 22-fold, and a 49-fold order. These again may seem to be united or divided in whole or in part, yet each symbol concealeth its aspect of the one secret most perfectly, according to the understanding of the true seeker after LVX. And in the thing there it says like the one secret. And when understanding and wisdom are both capitalized, they're at least suggestive and call our attention to the second Sephira, wisdom, and the third Sephira, Bina, understanding. So he's talking about according to the understanding of the true seeker after LVX. In other words, seeker after, you're a serious initiate who won't relax until they're master of the temple. Okay, under the little category Omnia ab uno, it would seem in these latter days that the true light hath been much darkened and obscured, so that even the most ignorant impostors have heard our motto, Omnia ab uno, which signifieth how all cometh from the one, have thought all roses and all crosses be alike and of equal virtue. Yet herein they err gravely, which error hath become apparent in the strange confusion which at this time prevaileth, so that their words have become as a babble, even as it was in the old time to the great hurt of the human race. Even though our father, Christian Rosenkreutz, and our ancient brethren, his heirs and successors, did much to restore the order of the universe and the power of the Word therein, yet such is the darkness in which men live, and such the confusion that is now upon us, that it were indeed time that the true brothers should again extend the light of the cross, if so be a spark of the true fire yet burns brightly within them. And then the side thing says LVX. Unto you, O my son, in whom that fire burns, I would be as a bellows to fan the flame into a great burning which shall illumine the darkness wherein thou walkest, so that from a flickering rushlight thou mayest become as a lamp of pure oil, and that thy lamp may shine forth as an ever-burning star of hope to thy fellow men. In the side it says star. For this reason I will discourse unto you, not of the cross of suffering to which thou wert bound upon, and which thou took thy obligation on behalf of the universe. Now, in the Golden Dawn, you're temporarily crucified on a cross to take your obligation. And that obligation, every clause of which contained a secret reference to the Holy Sephirah, the emanations of the one from whom cometh all. Now that obligation was in 10 parts, and each clause of that obligation was obviously Kether, Hokmah, Bina, etc. But rather that great and complete symbol of the rosy cross, that one, concealed within thy breast, upon the back of which, now remember when I told you this story when the old Rosicrucian past master took me out in the street and dangled his rose cross, his golden cross, and it flipped around and it was just pure gold, but something was scratched. There were things engraved on the back, and he wouldn't let me read that. Okay. But I digress, sorry. Upon the back of which is engraved Magister Jesu Christus, or your own magical motto, Deus est homo, benedictus Dominus Deus nostra, qui dedit nobis signum, and thy mystic name as Frater RR at AC. And in the side it says Deus homo. But it is the face of the cross that I would chiefly discourse unto thee, for wearing it upon thy breast, thou art become as the sun, who seeth not his own face, yet giveth the light of his countenance to the just and the unjust, with equal love and blessing. The side thing says Saul. What is it then that I see upon thy breast, O my son? In the center of all. Wow. I forgot. Let me get out my little thing here, as we say. In the center of all is a single point of light, whose starry brilliance blinds these eyes. For it is even as Hadit, thy secret self at the center of thy being. It is unique, thy one secret which thou sharest with the one, not with the many. It is thy true name, the word which brought thee into being, whose echo thou now art and will be to the end. It says the secret self on the center, and it says logos. This I know, for such a word and such a light dwelleth in me, and I in him. It is also that word which is written on the cubic stone. But for each it is different, and no man may knoweth it but he who possesseth it. Around and illumined by that central light is a rose of 5 petals. Okay, now he's got the rose of 5 petals that he's discussing next. It is the star of unconquered will, the will of the one light and the word of thy being, as it comes into manifestation in matter. It is the sign of man, the microcosm who mirrors through his 5 senses the great rose of creation. And that's going to be the 22 rose. That's the great rose. For this rose lives indeed, and the green barbs which open to display it are still bright with the color as they extend in the 4 directions, each harmonizing and bringing to a point 2 of the elements from which thou wast made. This rose sparkles upon a cross of gold. And though crucified thereon, to it glory and suffering are identical. This cross is of 6 squares of an unfolded cube. That is the same white stone whereon the true name was concealed, yet opened as a cross, in order that it may be known as a living stone, displaying the secret of life itself. With its arms it showeth forth the LVX, which is the light of the cross. Its sacrifice discloses the rose of love, and this supreme act of revealment declareth its own liberty. Thus we find light, life, love, and liberty at the very heart of man. Now those 3 L's you can easily place together like tiles to form a cross. Thus we find light, life, love, and liberty at the very heart of man. And while concealed behind all are the words Deus est homo. Now, when he says this, concealed behind all, okay, in that little cross that we're still talking about, on the flip side, where all the things are scratched or engraved, are the words Deus es homo. This, O my son, I beheld on the cross. Excuse me. This, O my son, I beheld on the center of thy jewel. But even as thou art but a tiny image of the all, so this is but the tiny image concealed within the heart of the great rose, wherein it flashes forth as a gleam of red gold. So along the side it says ON, on, equals 120. And LLLLL, life, life, love, and liberty, is also 120. And we're talking about the oro, light, rubio, red gold. Okay. Thou rememberest, O my son, when thou wast in the sacred vault. Okay, this is part of the Golden Dawn initiation ceremony, which is to be found in the mountain of that's Igneous, the vault of 7 sides, each side of which showed forth the color of one of the great planetary intelligences. Never wilt thou forget that light, which is the great mystery of the sealing of the vault. Even though ages hence the darkness of the floor may be obliterated from thy memory when the light has completed its work. Now all this 120, okay, Christian Rosenkreuz gets resurrected every 120 years. That's another. Dost thou remember how, touching with the wand of the rose and cross, the candidate does this on Christian Rosenkreuz, buried in the tomb. But have I said too much? Dost thou remember how, touching with thy wand the rose and cross upon the breast of the form of the past, in the form of the pastos, thou wert prompted to say, quote, out of the darkness let the light arise, unquote, and how a voice from the still figure within replied, buried with that light in a mysterious death, rising again in a mystical resurrection, cleansed and purified through him our master, O brother of the rose, of the cross of the rose. Let him, O adepts of all ages, have yet toiled. Like him have ye suffered tribulation, poverty, torture, and death. Have ye passed through. They have been but the purification of the gold. In the alembic of thine heart, through the athanor of affliction, seek thou the true stone of the wise, unquote. Hast thou not found such a rose concealed in the heart of the rose of creation? Is not that stone thyself? Never again wilt thou be shut up, for the rose of thy being has opened, and thy prison has been exchanged for a cross. But in this transition, that which is below has become like unto that which is above, and that which is written seeth itself, and that which is within seeth itself in that which is without. Thus there is beauty and harmony in this degree of adeptship. And it refers to Tifereth, 5 = 6, Adeptus Minor. But though thou mayest know the word of this grade and the formulae thereof, thou hast yet to overcome many difficulties ere thou art master of the temple of the universe. And that says Nemo, 8 = 3, along the side there. Around thee I see the first 3 petals of the great rose forming an upright triangle. So there's around thee, there's the cross, little tiny rose cross. So around thee, kind of forming a triangle of petals there, upon which the sacred letters Aleph, Mem, and Sheen, each shining upon a petal of a different color, yellow, blue, and red. As thou hast already been taught, these are the three mother letters of the sacred Hebrew alphabet, the letters of the three elements, which the fourth, or earth, is the admixture. See, where am I? Okay. Thou must master the elements, O my son. These are to be found in the cross of thine own being, and thou hast already learned to establish thyself firmly in the equilibrium of forces, in the center of the cross of the elements, that cross from whose center the creative word issued in the birth of the dawning universe. Thou hast learned to be prompt and active as the sylphs, but to avoid frivolity and caprice, to be energetic and strong like the salamanders, but to avoid irritability and ferocity, to be flexible and attentive to the images like the undines, but to avoid idleness and changeability, and to be laborious and patient like the gnomes, but to avoid grossness and avarice. Thou must not forget these early lessons in thy search after the greater ones. 7 other petals, there we go, 7 other petals encircle thee. Or, excuse me, 7 other petals encircle these 3. Each again shines forth its true color, forming the rainbow of promise, but promise fulfilled, since the circle is complete. Upon each petal appears another sacred letter. Let's see here, maybe I'll just do this one. Okay, so that's that second ring. Upon each petal appear another sacred letter, the letters of the 7 planets, whose great elementary rulers, whose influence is ever present, and whose aid thou mayest accept or reject at will. If thou wouldst master the elements, thou wilt do well to invoke the aid and cooperation of the great celestial intelligences, who, through thine own holy guardian angel, are ever ready and willing to lead thee of their wisdom and power. Willing to lend thee of their wisdom and power. These are the rulers of the Sephiroth below Hokmah and above Malkuth, according to the plan of the Minutum, good Lord, Mendum, Tree of Life, which thou sawest upon the small altar within the vault of initiation. Yet again, surrounding the 7 are the 12 outermost petals. Okay. Let's see. Engraved with the simple letters of the 12 signs of the zodiac, the sphere of the fixed stars. Each has its appropriate color, and all may be recomposed into the white light of the center. In the outer of these columns, mix and form the gray of the sphere of Hokmah, which is ever the balance between black and white. But within the great star universe, is focused upon that central point, which is everywhere, since the circumference of the infinite rows is nowhere. This center is the kether of the whole scheme. for Deus est homo. It's all really that little, here it's a black dot, but it's really a white dot. Remember the old camera shutters? The camera lens opens up, but there's a series of sliding little panels that, and when you took a picture, that big eye went like from a point to out like that and then back to shut off the light. Remember those old camera shutters? That's sort of like, together is everything. It's everything. That's my audio visual for today. Thus, O my son, I have drawn for thee the great rose of 22 petals, the 22 letters of the holy alphabet, from which may be formed all words sacred and profane. These are united and bound together in such a manner that the sigils of the angels may be drawn therefrom. But of this I may not speak more plainly, for it is thy task to discover and use them. And the influence of the rose is that mesla, which is the influence from the crown that descendeth like dew upon the rose, even as it uniteth the sephiroth of the tree of life. This tree is itself formed as an ankh. Now, maybe I've got an ankh here somewhere. Fredericod's ankh. And maybe I don't. Okay. Which is but the form of the rose and cross used by our brethren of ancient Egypt as a sign of their way or going. As such is the key of the rota or tarot of Thoth. When, O my son, by means of thy central will, thou shalt have expanded thy rose of 5 petals, so that it comprehends this greater rose, whereof the petals are 22, thou mayest come to a further understanding of the cross, which hath 4 arms, the sum of which, from 1 to 4, being 10, are the holy Sephiroth. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2, okay, is 10. This great cross, of which the cross of thy being is a reflection and minute counterpart, is again formed of 6 squares. Now we're talking about the big cross, like DuQuette showed us in his thing there. The big cross, like that. The cube is matter. The cube unfolded displays the several elements with their spiritual center. So likewise doth IHVH, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, appear as God of the elements until Shin, the Holy Spirit, descendeth into the midst and burst him asunder as Yod-Heh-Shin-Vav-Heh, which is the name of the God-man, the Redeemer. Okay, in Christian mysticism, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Jehovah becomes Jesus. So likewise is man the pentagram of the elements, crowned with spirit, shown with unconquered will on each arm of the cross, for he is the master of the 4 worlds through the cooperation of the macrocosmic or divine world, which is symbolized by the hexagram below. There we go. This is symbolized by the hexagram. Let's see. Below the great rose on the lower arm of the cross, and which appears surrounded with the planetary symbols with the sign of the sun in their midst. The extremity of each arm of the cross is triple, and each triplicity is assigned to 3 alchemical principles in their proper combinations. There's upside down there. There they are there. There they are there. And there they are there. Thus again we find the suggestion of 12 circles corresponding to the zodiac or star universe, while the 13th is concealed as a point in their midst, and is the unity thereof. 13 is 1 plus 3, which is 4. 4 is the number of manifestation in matter. In matter, the 3 principles, or gunas, are ever operative, singular as forces, united as spirit. And he refers to Rajas, Sattvas, and Tamas, the 3 gunas, and telling them that they operate kind of in the Hindu system in exactly the same way as salt, sulfur, and mercury do in the alchemical way of looking at things. Thou hast, O my son, the knowledge of the invoking and banishing rituals of the pentagram, whereby thou mayest control the elements and the astral plane. Therefore thou understandest how these pentagrams should be traced with thy wand and will, and how this formula is symbolically shown in the arrangement of the symbols of the elements. And we see them with fire in the lower right, water in the upper right, air in the upper left, and earth in the lower left, and spirit at the top. Let's see. Thou knowest, too, how the planetary rulers and even the zodiac signs are to be invoked or banished by means of the holy hexagram, the true arrangement, which is also shown in this symbol. Right there. The hexagram. But what of the barbed rose leaves, in which the macrocosmic rows were single, and are here shown as triple in each quarter? Okay, those are all those barbs. And here I've got them placed like that for us to think about them. But what of the barbed rose leaves, which in the macrocosmic rows were single, and here are shown as triple in each quarter? What of the letters and symbols thereon? Here indeed is given the formula whereby the LVX may be drawn from the cross, and the key word found and the word be subtly extracted from them. Talking about I.N.R.I. Without this knowledge, how canst thou give the true signs of thy grade? Let us therefore analyze the key word as our ancient brethren. I.N.R.I. Roman. Yud, Nun, Resh, Yud, Hebrew. Virgo, Isis, mighty mother. Scorpio, Apophis, destroyer. Sol, Osiris, slain and risen. Isis, Apophis, Osiris, Egyptian. E-A-O, Greek. Now make the signs whereby the LVX, which is the light of the cross, shines forth. And thou hast the meaning of the rose leaves of thy mystic jewel, leaves that are ever green as life itself. And now, O my son, go thou and partake in the mystic Eucharist, even as thou hast been taught by those who know. Fortify thyself, for thou hast yet a perilous journey before thee. Thou hast been led into the light. Bethink thee that there is yet another rose and cross, the rose of 49 petals, which is 7 by 7 upon the cross of 5 squares. The mysteries of these thou wilt some day know, but not now, for these partake of the nature of the great darkness of NOx, the darkness which is as the light which is higher than eyesight, the pure darkness of understanding, or of the womb of the Lady Babylon, and the city of the pyramids, which is the abode of Nemo, Nemo. Benediction. May thy mind be open unto the higher, thy heart a center of light, and the body of the temple of the rosy cross. Vale Frater. We probably went a little long today, didn't we? But anyway, we got through that whole thing, and I hope you enjoyed that. Yesterday, I also printed a link where you can download page by page sort of PDF of this document. Again, the document is by Frater Akkad de MYSTERIIS ROSAE RUBEAE et AUREAEBCRUCIS. Hope you enjoy. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
I'm coming. Love is the law, love under will.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome, dear.